Welcome to Football Conspiracies.
I'm Jared Cole.
And I'm Jared Rabinovich.
This week's episode, 2025 playoffs. All right, so welcome to this week's episode where we're talking about the 2025 playoffs.
Yeah, we're in the midst of it.
Yeah, I have some interesting numerology for you, your favorite.
That is indeed my favorite.
Okay, so the Bills versus Chiefs head-to-head over the last 10 years, okay?
Yeah, I'm well aware of the Bills versus Chiefs head-to-head in the past 10 years. It's been painful for me, I'm not going to lie.
See, as a Bills fan, I think you'll be happier with these numbers than you expected. And Chiefs fans will be a little more disappointed than they expected.
Okay, I'm ready to hear. Indulge me.
10 games, 5 wins, 5 losses, 251 points for, 251 points against.
Wait, you're fucking kidding me.
I swear to God. And then after he put this out, the Twitter account NFL on Prime Video stole this and turned it into like an actually nice graphic.
That's actually like a kind of insane level coincidence. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, it's insane.
Like, hear me out. When you bring me numerology, oftentimes I think you're gonna tell me it's pointing in one direction or the other, but you're literally telling me right now this is a coin flip game.
I'm saying that this will determine the head-to-head matchup for the past 10 years.
I guess you're right. Like, this is the decisive moment. Like, there's like the scales are as even as they possibly could be.
Yeah, I have my money on the Bills. And I know you have your money on the Bills too. But
my money and my faith are different things.
Yeah.
All right, so into the bulk of today's episode, we got a bit of a shorter one for you guys today, but I think this is something that is it's pretty necessary for us to delve into right now. We are not going to be covering any particular conspiracy theory in detail because more pressing issues are at hand right now. As J. Cole just mentioned, and I'm sure most of you are well aware if you listen to this podcast, we are currently in the thick of the NFL playoffs. So, unsurprisingly, many new conspiracies are being born by the minute right now. Like, it's the breeding grounds right now. Like, you know how it's all happening on X?
Yeah.
This is what's happening on X right now. Like, it's not all happening on X. Football conspiracies are happening on X right now. Conspiratorial thinking is almost always more popular in times of high stakes and rising pressure. This is should not be a surprising thing for most people to hear.
No.
And like, just to illustrate this point a little bit, let me give you a more serious example that I think will illustrate this point quite well. You can think of the days following 9/11 or the weeks following a presidential election as times when stakes are high and conspiracies inevitably follow. That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I think this is largely because, for many, conspiracies are a way to make sense of things we don't understand. Humans have an inherent need to make sense of things, to make patterns where there aren't any. This instinct is likely one of the primary reasons as to why humans have found themselves as Earth's apex species. Like, this is a survival instinct, and it's part of the reason that we're so dominant on this planet.
Yeah, it definitely helps with the longevity.
Oh, 100%. But it is also a key reason as to why conspiracies abound in human society. And knowing all this, it makes more sense why, in the past few years specifically, which have been, tumultuous to say the least, there have been a marked increase in the amount of conspiracies making their way into public discourse. And if you want to think about this point in a very tangible sense, you could think of things like witch trials, where there were sort of things that people did not understand about certain people in society, so they called them witches, said it was magic, and used that to explain something that they couldn't understand at the time. And I know that the stakes of the NFL playoffs are not nearly as high as some of the stuff I've just alluded to, but that does not mean that the raised stakes the playoffs bring to the NFL don't have a similar effect to what a presidential election or a witch hunt may have on the political world.
Yeah, it's sort of like its own little microcosm. Like, it's important to the little world of the NFL, and like the presidential election's important to like the entire world.
Exactly. Well, the stakes of a presidential election are obviously higher in terms of how it's going to affect the world. The stakes within the NFL community during playoff season feel like the tensions are pretty much as high if you're just looking at the microcosm, like you said.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I brought this up before, but it's a point I think is really good to make right now. Have we talked about the fact that conspiracy theories are for losers?
No, I don't think we have.
Okay, let me explain. Because I think when I first say that, it seems, pretty offhanded, but there's actually a brilliant paper that I recommend to anyone who's interested in this sort of stuff called Conspiracy Theories Are for Losers. And it starts off by explaining that I don't mean loser in the pejorative sense. I'm not calling you a loser. I mean loser in the literal sense. People who lose at something become conspiracy theorists. Think about the easiest example I could come up with right now is the Jan 6 rioters after the 2020 election. They lost an election, conspiracy theories abounded because they were losers, and you have to cope with the fact that maybe your views aren't as popular as you would like them to be.
Yeah. Okay, I see. When you said that, I was like, whoa, you're literally calling yourself a loser. You literally have a conspiracy theories podcast.
Yeah, but I'm not a conspiracy theorist, very, very firmly. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would consider me one for the views that I hold.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But those people are conspiracy theorists. And I think this is often because people need to make sense as to why something they so firmly believed or desired to not happen ended up taking place. And conspiracies are a great way of making sense of that dissonance that you might be feeling. For many, it is easier to accept that a game is scripted or the refs are being paid off than to accept that the team you put so much hope into simply lost. And I think this sort of sentiment is only heightened once the playoffs begins. This all makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Because I think this is a very good explainer as to why we're seeing so many conspiracies about the NFL at this very moment or any playoff moment that we've seen in the past. All of this is really just a long-winded way of me saying that we're going to be talking about all the conspiracies I've found that have popped up already during the playoffs. And let me put a prediction out there. I have a feeling we might be having a very similar conversation on next week's podcast, because one more week of football playoffs also means one more week of raised tensions, creating the perfect environment for the birth of more football conspiracies.
Yeah, well, I mean, also conspiracies beget conspiracies in the sense like, oh, in this NFC divisional round game, these two matchups, there's some conspiracy going on here, and because Team A won from there and Team B won from there, there's a new conspiracy because of...
No, yeah, exactly. And I think this plays into the whole idea of conspiracy theories are for losers. Sometimes you come up with a conspiracy theory, and you're so sure it's going to be right, and then it's wrong, and now you're the loser. So you need to come up with a new conspiracy theory to explain why that first one wasn't correct. Obviously, this is a theme that we've revisited many times throughout our podcast, but I think it helps to really articulate it clearly like this.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited for the first segment of this, because the first thing we need to discuss truly is the bread and butter of this podcast. J. Cole. Any guesses?
I'm going to say it has to be episode 1.
Of course it is. The Super Bowl logo conspiracy.
It's happening again.
This is the third time we've been back here, I think.
Yeah.
And, we have, a decent catalog now, but, 3 times in 30 episodes, this is too much. Guys, come up with better conspiracies.
Yeah,
come with some novel shit. For those unfamiliar... I'm not going to go too in-depth right now because we spoke about this very detailed on the first episode of our podcast, and we touch on it again in an episode titled Smorgasbord. We will be continuing the conversation we had on this more recent episode. We really don't need to go too in-depth on this one because it really is just people bringing up the same grievances we've covered before. The last time we spoke about this topic, I brought the video of the NFL Mike speaking about the Super Bowl logo conspiracy and how it will play out in this year's playoffs. You recall when we were speaking about that?
Yeah, I remember he was a big Dolphins fan, and he thought that the colors were coordinated with the Dolphins, which...
Obviously, we know that's not quite the case. Go Fish. And I don't know if you remember, but he was also the person who made the claim that all but 2 of the Super Bowls throughout all of Super Bowl history have lined up with the Super Bowl logo conspiracy.
Yeah, and the blacks and the whites didn't count.
Which was just objectively dumb as fuck, as we discussed on the Smorgasbord episode. So if you are interested in hearing us completely tear apart this theory, please go back and listen to that episode. However, I have since found 2 more articles about this subject that specifically use at the NFL Mike's video as their primary source, the one that we already discussed.
That's funny.
Oh, yeah.
That's good.
People pumping this guy up. These two articles were found on Marca.com and Sportskita.com. Well, these websites may not sound familiar to you. J. Cole, do you have any idea what
No
these are?
clue.
Totally fair. I don't blame you for not knowing, and I certainly don't blame the viewers for not knowing, because these are not websites any sports fan worth their salt would actually go and visit. But they are important for the purposes of our episode and our podcast, because this is not the first time either of these websites have published articles that we discussed on this podcast. Like, these are churning out just garbage sports theories and
Okay,
sports
so they're-
content.
yeah.
It's a TMZ of sports.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Well,
just-
that's not even that reputable, I'm sure.
No, it's like literally complete trash. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, as far as I'm concerned, it's like some guy who's just like ripping articles or talking about like the biggest TikTok video that came up recently.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like really not reputable shit. That being said, there's some great fodder for our show. So I'm not
Yeah.
keep publishing, boys. Thank you, I appreciate it. These articles are attempting to narrow down the potential Super Bowl teams based on the color of their logos. So they're taking the teams that are currently in the playoffs, or at least were of the making of these articles, and trying to figure out which potential teams could be based on this red-green logo that we have for this upcoming Super Bowl. With this red-green logo, both of these articles point to the Chiefs as being the red team. I think that's pretty logical. Keep in mind, these were written before the wild card was played out, so...
Even still, there are so many red teams who are there and so many green teams. But we know now, obviously, that the red is going to be
If
the
it's going to be the Chiefs, and
the green is going to be the Eagles.
that is definitely what it seems like it's making up to be. And if it does end up being that Super Bowl, first of all, that'd be just wildly depressing, because I think the general NFL fan wants it to be anyone but those two teams.
Yeah, it feels like it's always the Eagles and
Or the
it's
Chiefs.
always the Chiefs.
Exactly.
Like,
It's just like the least entertaining thing that you could do. Like, it's just,
yeah.
it's like Vegas's like worst nightmare as well, because like I'm sure there's at least a handful of people who put down bets on that Super Bowl at the beginning of the season.
Oh, yeah.
right?
Well, I mean,
It's not that crazy of a guess.
exactly.
And yes, as J. Cole mentioned, for the green teams from the NFC, because, you know, the Chiefs have already taken up that AFC spot as the red team, the options that this article lay out are the Seahawks, the Packers, and the Eagles. As we know now, the Seahawks never made it to the playoffs, so that was never an option. The Packers are out of the playoffs, so it's obviously not them, and that just leaves the Eagles. So it looks like we're heading into a Eagles-Chiefs Super Bowl based on the Super Bowl logo conspiracy. So I hope you guys are excited for another entertaining year of championship football.
Yeah, I saw a thing about, like, of the 4 remaining teams, the Eagles have the worst storyline.
Oh, by far.
So it wouldn't make sense for the NFL's scriptwriters to put them in. Because, like, you have a potential three-peat, you have Buffalo proving everyone wrong after losing 4 Super Bowls in a row.
Yeah.
You have a rookie quarterback taking Washington to the Super Bowl. And then you have, like,
Jalen
Saquon
Hurts,
Barkley.
Saquon Barkley.
Saquon Barkley sticking it to the Giants. But, like, that's not nearly as good a storyline.
There's nothing fun there.
Yeah.
And they've like won a Super Bowl relatively recently. Like, there's just really nothing fun there.
Yeah, so I don't think the Eagles will be in solely because it doesn't work for their script.
Yeah, not the
writing.
script writers have a say.
Yeah, exactly. They would know.
And also, just on the Seahawks, I need to mention this. They didn't make the playoffs, so obviously it's off the table, but I'm colorblind. I will mention that, but the Seahawks aren't a green team, are they? Like, please correct me if I'm wrong.
I mean, technically, they are. Their primary... They're blue and green. Like, their green is green. Their colorway is green. They're technically a green team. I would say they're on the side of green that's closer to blue, but it's still green.
That's like some weak ass shit. Next thing you know, people are gonna be like, when the Bills make it in, they're gonna be like, the Bills are red because they have that line of red in their logo.
That's what your guy Mike thought.
Yeah, I guess you're right. He did say that originally.
He said the red was Buffalo before, so red could be Buffalo again, Jared. Look at that. Except we trashed him because it's a tertiary color and like
exactly. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's a ridiculous theory, and you know what? It has nothing to do with the Super Bowl logo colors anyway. So I have if the Bills lose, it's because they suck, not because they aren't red. Simple as that.
I mean, you have the excuse right there, and it's pretty impressive you didn't take it.
Oh, damn it. Fuck. Either way, as we've narrowed down, according to this theory, we now know the Super Bowl matchup we'll be watching on February 9th. it will be a game between the Chiefs and the Eagles. So the believers of this theory don't bother watching the next couple of weeks of football. We already know who's going to be in the big game. So what's the point, really, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't need to watch on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, if you know as a fact that this theory is real, like, what's the NFL Mike? What is he doing sitting down watching this game?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a waste of fucking time.
The NFL Mike should not be allowed to watch the playoffs
That's what
until
like,
the Super Bowl.
Exactly. Like, it's just crazy to me. It's like the people who are believers of this theory are ostensibly football fans who are going to sit down and watch this game within their mind knowing that they already know the result.
Yeah,
why are you sitting down and watching?
Why would you sit down for 3 hours just so that you could know that the Chiefs are already going to win this game?
Exactly. And it's like, I don't know, it reminds me of like the magnetic glove theory that we discussed a few episodes back of watching these like super detailed videos of like someone who must have like a lot of NFL knowledge to have put this video together in the first place. But it's like, if you think the whole thing is scripted and rigged, like, why are you
still entertaining them? Yeah.
Exactly. Like, just give up on it.
Yeah. Obviously.
Exactly. That's my own personal gripe. I totally understand that, like, there's more to it than that. But the NFL Mike, you can skip this week. So, this is the extent of new information we have regarding this theory. But why I mention it is mostly because I need to make note of the fact that we are still grappling with this theory. Even after it being definitively proven wrong with the results of last year's playoffs, people are still holding on to this theory. I just want to end this segment off with a line themarca.com uses to end off their article on the subject.
So now you know, if you are a bettor, you have your winnings guaranteed. Not only this season, but in the years to come, thanks to the NFL Mike's infallible method. Honestly, I don't see how the NFL Mike isn't a billionaire and keeping his secrets to himself.
Exactly what I'm fucking saying. Like, this is a wildly irresponsible thing to say. Like, what a shit take by the Marca. Like, if there's any people out there who, like, are susceptible to this sort of thing and they read that line and put money, I feel horrible. Like, maybe it ends up being right. But
I placed a bet on Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl while we were recording this podcast because of this. So, I mean...
All right. Maybe you shouldn't be a loyal Marca reader. You gotta cut yourself off, all right? Yeah, and I just want to say, for those of you who do bet on sports, I simply beg of you that you don't base your bets on this theory, like the article suggests. I also don't want shit if this does end up being the matchup, because, like, it's entirely possible. That being said, if this does end up being the matchup, I do not think it has anything to do with the logo. It would be a wild coincidence, though.
It is 100% solely the logo. They were teasing us. They gave it from day one. They knew we would know, so they were like, you know what? Fuck them. Let's just do it anyways.
I thought by this point how not pilled I am would rub off on you, but it just never fucking will.
It never will. It's fact.
Yeah,
There's no such thing as a coincidence.
Your brain is completely cooked. The next theory we will be speaking about is a classic the NFL is scripted conspiracy.
Well, it is.
Well, no, it's not, but let's move on to this theory. I first read about this theory in an article titled Super Bowl Script Leaked as Surprised Winner Stuns NFL Fans, and it's not good for Patrick Mahomes. Pretty tantalizing title, if you ask me.
Well, I mean, a surprised winner is gotta be at least the Bills or the Commanders.
So I will say that this article was written before any wildcard game was played. So we have a lot more information than they had to work with. And I also wrote this segment before the Sunday games were played. So I was working with a little less information. That being said, let's get into this. I think it's entertaining and certainly worth covering no matter what. The article was published on TalkSport.com on January 10th and written by Joshua Rogers. It focuses on a theory that was originally proposed in a TikTok. The TikTok is simply a shot of a completed bracket that ostensibly displays what the results of the current playoff season will be. It also shows the text, quote unquote, the NFL done leaked the script. The bracket suggests that the AFC Championship will see the Chiefs and the Bills face off. The Bills will emerge victorious. For the NFC, it suggests that the Eagles and the Lions will meet in the conference championship. The Eagles will emerge victorious. It then says that the Eagles will win the Super Bowl. For those of you who are fans of the Super Bowl logo theory, I hope you haven't put those bets down yet, because this script says you've made a mistake. Unless the Bills' dash of red is enough to satiate your desires for a red team in the Super Bowl.
Which we know that it shouldn't, at least.
Well, I mean, for the master of this theory, the NFL Mike, apparently it is, so I guess I'm not the final authority on this one. Jokes aside, though, this TikTok has over 500,000 views. Also, something I need to state on the record, the TalkSport.com article I found about this theory claims that the TikTok has over 2.2 million views. I checked out the actual TikTok, and it says 515.8k views as of the writing of this episode. It is possible that the video is deleted and reposted, or some mistake was made on behalf of the article's author. But I think it is worth pointing out when discussing the article. I think it kind of takes away a bit from the validity of it, if you will.
Just a little.
Yeah, like, I mean, this is the sort of fact that's super easy to verify, but also super easy to embellish. And embellishing it may help in justifying to your readers why this is a big deal and something they should care enough about to get to the end of this article. Right? So I think this needs to be said when we're talking about the legitimacy of something like this.
Yeah.
Like I said, this could have been a mistake or something not malicious, but I would not have done my due diligence if I failed to point this out. People immediately came out to voice their support for this theory. But for the most part, and to my surprise, most people roundly criticized the theory and tore it down immediately.
Okay, but they only tore it down because they don't want to see the Eagles win.
That is totally a fair point. That being said, let me get here. You'll understand where I'm coming from. The entire comment section was almost entirely people talking shit about the theory, which, like...
Yeah, I bet you they were all Detroit fans who were pissed that their team wasn't projected to make it to the Super Bowl.
Totally possible, but there was definitely a couple Eagles fans squeezed in there, as I have some evidence of shortly. It seems that very few, if any people, found this theory compelling or believable, and it could very well be for the reasons J. Cole pointed out. But one choice quote I did find is as follows.
As an Eagles fan, there is no way we are beating the Packers.
Well, I got good news for the person who left this one.
Yeah, honestly, like...
Ecstatic.
What a shit take about your own team.
I know, like a horrible take.
Like, come on, have a little faith. You got Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts. You don't need to worry about fucking Jordan Love.
It's the Packers. Yeah, like it's not like the Packers were like the biggest threat in the league this year.
Yeah, Packers fans at the end of the season were trying to hype themselves up because the NFC North was just so good this year.
Unbelievable.
Hey, Jared, how many wins did the NFC North get in the playoffs this year?
I believe it was exactly 0.
Ah, yeah, that's right. Okay.
No, but they were so good, trust me. Like,
oh.
like, never seen a division like that in my life. Like, oh my god.
Regular season merchants.
Yeah, literally. Literally. What an embarrassing title to hold. Did you see that video, just like while we're on the topic, of the head coaches of the Vikings and the Lions after their Week 17 game, Dan Quinn?
Yeah.
He went up to, I'm not sure what the coach's name for the Vikings is, but went up to him and said, "See you in 2 weeks."
No.
Embarrassing stuff.
Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah, I feel bad for that. Well, actually, I don't.
Goddamn.
Dug your own grave, buddy.
Yeah.
All right, but now that I've teased this bracket enough, J. Cole, I want you to take a look at the bracket and tell me your thoughts on it.
All right, so, I mean, Bills winning, they have Baltimore. Oh, they took Chargers over Houston. We have Philly over Green Bay, Bucks over Washington, and Minnesota over LA. Wow.
It's a pretty fucking solid bracket.
I mean, the AFC, the only thing they got wrong was Houston. I mean, they took the Chargers instead of Houston, and their NFC is fucking dog shit.
Yeah, their NFC is not great. They took Bucks over Commanders. They took Vikings over Rams.
But even, and then you have Detroit playing the Vikings, and you have the Bucks playing the Eagles, and you know the Bucks are going to win that game. Like,
okay, calm down.
I mean, they did it last year.
Yeah, just because
they did it in the regular season this year.
Okay, calm down.
They did it already.
I've never met someone who looks higher upon Baker Mayfield. I literally think you love Baker Mayfield more than his own mother.
You'd be surprised. I feel like Baker Mayfield has one of like the craziest cult followings. Like I saw a video of these married couple who named their kid after Baker Mayfield, and Baker sent this kid just like a bunch of stuff.
Well, I mean, like, that's one way to get some free shit. Like, yeah, I mean...
But, like, that just shows how much Baker Mayfield fans love Baker Mayfield.
No, that's true. I'll give you that.
Baker Mayfield is such a lovable guy. I don't know.
Maybe he'll be more lovable if he wins some games for you.
I mean, he won quite a few. He won the NFC South, so...
Yeah, I guess. He won he's won the worst division in the league 2 years running. Huge flex.
I don't know. I would look at the AFC East as a questionably weak division.
Yeah, but at least there's one good team in there.
You wanna
one undeniably good team in there.
Yeah, exactly. So winning the AFC East is way less impressive because there's only one team. I'm saying the NFC South. It is a dog shit. It is dog shit. But we got some surprises, and it's always close and entertaining.
Hear me out. 25% good teams is better than 0% good teams. I'll just leave it there. All right, but now that we've discussed this bracket, like I just want to say this theory could have been a great theory. This could have tricked so many people, except for like the couple mistakes they made. It's brutal. Like if they had taken the Commanders to beat the Bucks, or like if they'd gone the full first round correct, imagine the waves this would have made online. It would have been beautiful, like chef's kiss.
Yeah, you say that, but they only got they were only 50% in the first round.
No, I understand
and I
that.
guess the only correct matchup they had in the second round they got correctly, which was Bills Baltimore. But like this is like saying, oh, if I had only selected a few other people on my March Madness bracket, I would have hit 64 on the first round. I would have got all the games.
You know what? I'll give you that.
Like I hate that take. Oh, if only bracket. Sorry.
Honestly, I'm just like imagining a world where this bracket, at least for the first round, was right, and we had like so many people being like, it's scripted.
Oh my god.
That's the world I'm imagining, and that's like, it's a beautiful prospect. Like, is it not? Like, I don't know. Like, I think it would certainly do good things for our podcast numbers.
Yeah. Oh my god, we would be talking about it fucking forever. But I mean, also the first game of the playoffs, was it not Houston, LA?
Oh no, they like got it wrong immediately.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it wasn't even like close to like even being considered a possibility that this might be the script.
And I discovered this theory after the games had already been played. So I looked and I was like, oh well, that's a dud. That being said, it's this imagined world I have in my head where I'm like, oh, I kind of wish, you know?
Yeah, I feel like if you just like make your bracket look fancy enough and post it on TikTok, you can convince anyone that you have the script.
Well, that's like, literally what happened here.
Like I'm sure someone out there does have a perfect NFL bracket right now, because honestly, a lot of these games like were a little bit more predictable, and some of like the off chances maybe someone got it. Does that mean they have the script? Like,
no, obviously not. That's my opinion.
No, yeah.
That being said, there's a lot of people out there who definitely think that guy does have the script, you know?
That is true.
And that's the issue here. And for anyone who may still be partial to this theory, and I know based on how we've talked about it, that number, I hope, is 0. There is one more piece of evidence that adds to the sketchiness of the theory. The TikTok user who posted the video uses the handle at Fioc Eagles. I think it's meant to be Flock Eagles, and it was taken, so they replaced the L with an I. That being said, many of the other videos on their TikTok are Eagles fan videos. So it does seem as though this theory simply came from an Eagles fan who was trying to hype up his team and make it look like they were scripted to win the Super Bowl. This TikTok was, more likely than not, posted as a joke, and if that is the case, I salute you at Flock Eagles.
Yeah, talk about engagement.
That's what I'm saying. Like, getting an article written about some bullshit you made up is a hilarious achievement. Like,
yeah, like, imagine just, like, posting a funny meme and articles being like, this guy predicted the Super Bowl.
Exactly. And, like, frankly, like, the NFL Mike might be in the exact same position.
Well, he is in the exact same.
Exactly. But that being said, I think he's genuinely trying to trick people, whereas I think at Flock Eagles was, like, an Eagles fan account who was like, oh, isn't this a joke?
Yeah,
And then,
yeah.
like, these schmucks on TalkSport.com were like, wait
a
maybe there's
second.
something here. I know this isn't a particularly hard-hitting episode or investigation, particularly compared to some of our other episodes. That being said, I think it was necessary to supply our listeners with the most up-to-date NFL conspiracies. This is our mandate, and I do not intend to let my loyal audience down. For the next few weeks, as the playoffs are going down, I expect we'll likely see more episodes similar to this one. I intend for the show to be your one-stop shop for all NFL playoff conspiracy needs. And I just want to end off by saying that I hope everyone else is as interested as I am in the slew of conspiracies we're likely going to be getting in the upcoming weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I am. I mean,
I hope so. You're my co-host.
Yeah, well, I mean, this coming weekend, once the championship games are played, we'll have a whole new round of conspiracies for the Super Bowl, especially even if it isn't the Eagles and Chiefs, which would definitely bring up the Super Bowl logo once again.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like even still, we could get some good conspiracies. Like, oh, are the Bills going to break their curse? And, like,
I think there's going to be some
like
juicy
that,
stuff no matter what coming from the Bills-Chiefs game. Because if the Chiefs get there, it's scripted, obviously.
Yeah.
And if the Bills get there, then it's going to be, exactly, it's going to be the breaking of a curse. Like, there's no matter what. The AFC Championship is giving us some conspiracies.
Well,
I'm 100% convinced.
I mean, the three best teams in football were the Chiefs, Ravens, and Bills. So it doesn't surprise me that their Bills get back-to-back unbelievable games.
Exactly. And we're very likely going to be seeing some pretty good conspiracy theories coming out about the Ravens-Bills game that already happened. You know, there's so much juicy stuff in the process of being made right now.
Well, I mean, we can look back at that Chiefs-Texans game and talk about some of those questionable penalties. Maybe not why they happened, but when they happened sort of vibe.
Yes,
but...
definitely. Well, I mean, why they happened, it was the Chiefs.
Well, yeah, it's the Chiefs. You can't do that to Patrick Mahomes.
And Patrick Mahomes can't do that to anyone.
No.
Literally, he's incapable of it, as far as I understand. All this being said, I'm pretty excited to see what fresh conspiracy babies are being popped out of these incubators in the next coming week. And I guess one final thought. Go Bills!
Alrighty, listeners, this isn't going to be a long end segment thing. This is just a couple of stats I feel like you should know, and just like random things brought to you by Jay Cutta because he's the GOAT.
I mean, our heads are deep in the playoffs right now, so we got more important things to be focusing on.
In the divisional round of the playoffs, okay, the team that had the most yards, total yards in a game, lost.
Who was that?
Houston had more total yards than Kansas City. Detroit had more total yards than Washington. LA had more total yards than the Eagles. And Baltimore had more total yards than the Bills.
That's actually kind of insane. Like, the odds of that, I wonder. Like, I wonder how often a team loses when they have less yards than their opposition. Like, that's already rare. The fact that it happens 4 times in the same round in the playoffs, that's
ridiculous, right? Like
that's a huge anomaly, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And like, I don't feel like I even noticed it in some of these games. Like, I mean, I definitely noticed in the Bills-Ravens game because I was like, oh my god, the Ravens are getting so many yards on us. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I think to most people who watched that game, like, it was pretty obvious that the Ravens' mistakes lost the game and not the Bills' greatness.
Yeah,
But some of these other games,
well,
I would have never noticed.
It's the same thing with Houston, Kansas City.
Yeah, that might be true, but that's not how I experienced the Lions game. Like, to me, it seemed like the Commanders absolutely schmucked them. Like, it wasn't even, like, a close game to me.
Yeah, no, but Detroit was getting yards and just not getting touchdowns.
No, the numbers don't lie.
Yeah. Another thing, this is, like, classic Jay Cutta. Just get ready for this. The Lions allowed 28 points in the second quarter. It's the 7th time they've allowed that many points in the second quarter, which is an NFL record. They are 0-7 in those games. They ended up losing. He tweeted that at halftime. And they ended up losing.
Wait. That's
Yeah.
pretty crazy. But also 28 points in a quarter is nuts. Like,
Yeah,
that's already insane.
that's a lot.
But 0-7, that's pretty sad.
Yeah.
That's some sad stuff.
Yeah, crazy. Patrick Mahomes is now 8-0 when he plays on Saturday.
Like his entire career?
His entire career. He's never lost on a Saturday.
Wow, he's like Josh on Thursday.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. I love little stats like that. I mean,
Yeah.
like, primetime players, he's a clutch player. Like, it doesn't make...
Yeah.
It totally makes sense to me that Patrick Mahomes, when he's in the spotlight, is performing. And also, I mean, like, he has a playoff record unlike any player in the league right now. So it makes sense that the games that are often played on Saturdays, the playoff games, he has a good record in.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense. Yeah, and yeah, the specialty games, yeah.
Yeah, tracks for me.
Yeah? All right, and finally, in the Chiefs' last 11 games by start time, so their Houston game was at 4:30, which they ended up winning. So when they play in between 4:25 and 4:30 kickoff, they're now 1-2. At any other time, they were 8-0.
So what you're saying is that they just got to kick off between 4:25 and 4:30?
No, they don't have to. They can't kick off. They're 1-2 when they kick off at 4:25 to 4:30. They're 8-0 when they don't at 1 o'clock or 8:15.
I see.
Or,
I'm not gonna lie.
Or even the 4 o'clock game.
That's definitely a lamer stat than the rest of them.
Yeah, Jay Cutta was a little dry that day.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
Like, I respect the hustle. That being said, it does not give me comfort for my 6:30 Bills-Chiefs game that's happening this Sunday.
yeah, no, Mahomes wins a lot. But, I mean, you also have to remember, Mahomes, in particular, was winning basically every single game the Chiefs played this season.
That is true.
I mean,
except that one against the Bills. So hopefully
Yeah,
we get a replay of that.
There you go.
Yeah,
There you
yeah,
go.
that's all I'm hoping for.
All right, and finally, here's a picture that Jay Cutta drew in MS Paint of head coach Andy Reid.
Yeah, I could tell. It looks more like Walter White than Andy Reid, but I respect the hustle.
Please check our Twitter to see this picture.
Yes, please. It is worth your time.
Yeah, and so that's what Jay Cutta had to bring us.
Yeah, and I guess just one last thought. Go Bills! And just to close this out, go Bills!